Hello everybody. So recently I was teaching my son about logic gates, and it seemed like a reasonable challenge while I was working through it to try something that was a bit more complex. So I decided I was going to try to build an adding machine. It was definitely complex enough that it was worth the challenge of thinking about, and it was quite surprising to find that you really have to work in the opposite direction to when you're doing maths by adding on paper. Like with paper, you kind of put the results together and then you kind of combine them into the final bit. Whereas with logic gates, it's like you start with the final bit and you have to work out which bits need to be on the input in order to get the right output there. So it's kind of the opposite way around. I'll show you what I mean. My name's Matt from Storyfeet, and let's get on with it, shall we? So, like I say, we're going to start small. So we're going to start with adding two bits together. So we'll have A over here and B right like so. Now, our output will need two bits, so we'll call them C1 and C2. Well, if A and B are the same, we're not going to get anything in C1 because that's a 0, 0, that's nothing. And a 1, 1 would carry the 1, and so we don't want that. So it's actually quite straightforward. We can just use an exclusive OR gate. So A or exclusive OR B gives the first bit. Getting the second bit's actually not that tricky either, because we only get it if A and B are on. So that's a 1 and a 1. So we can just use an AND gate, and I'll just hop over here, oops, and carry on the B over here. And we add those together, and that adds together two bits. And so if we get 0, 0, then we should have 0 on the XOR and 0 on the AND, that's 0. If we get 1, 1, then the XOR fails, but we do get the AND. And if we get 1 and 0, then the XOR gets us a 1, and the AND gets us a 0, so that would just be the 1. The next challenge is significantly trickier because we now have to work out what to do with the carry. We need A1 and A2 added to B1 and B2, and we will get C1, C2, and C4. 4 being the how many points it's worth, I guess. And the initial bit is exactly the same, so we just need an exclusive OR here as well. I don't know why I did that bump there. I wasn't quite thinking straight there. So this is the carry, but how many bits do we need to pass on to know what we're putting into C2? Because the carry isn't enough, right? We also need something from A2 and something from B2. And that's the challenge. We can't just AND three things together. So we've got to work out what we're going to do, how we can tell if we've got the right result here. We need to know if we've got an odd number of trues here. So we've got 3 items. We've got the carry, we've got A2 and B2. And if one of them is true, then we get a value in here. But if 2 of them are true, we're going to carry, and we get 0 there. And if 3 of them are true, we get 1 here, and we carry 1. So that's a little bit trickier, but let's work on that first. So we've got our carry result. I'm actually going to label this carry. If A is true, we'll split this on its true and false. So we'll require this, and we'll require both of these with an AND. And we'll send this to C2. Oh, we should AND those together. Oops. You can't just join wires on that side. So we'll put these into an OR. Either one of these will be true. And apologies for that terrible line work. So now we have our OR there, and these two have joined together into C2. The question is, what exactly do we put here? If A is true, then we need an even number of the other two, i.e. 0 or 2. And we can get that with kind of an XOR, right? And an XNOR does that job actually. So you do exclusive OR and then you NOT it. And that basically says if the two things are equal. So we put that here, an XNOR, use a circle there to make that a NOT, of A2 and B2. And we'll hop this over and take it to the AND. So in this case, if we have one of these, then we only get this if either both of them are true or both of them are false, in which case that's a 1, and so then we've got an odd number, so we keep one of those. If it's false, we need something else. Actually, it's quite straightforward. We actually just need the XOR on this side, so we'll put the XOR here. We won't put that little dot, and we'll carry this through, because if we've not got one of these, then we only want one of those, right? Because if two of them are on, then we'll carry. So we'll take the B2 here, and the A2 we will hop from here. Now the question then becomes, what do I put in here? Well, that also depends on the carry, because again, we've got these three numbers together, but it needs to be either 2 or 3. If it's 0 or 1 of them are true, then that's not enough to make it to the carry. But if 2 or 3 of them are, then the carry will be lit as well. And so this is basically the carry out of this. To do that again, we will need that carry value, so I'm just going to hop him over here, and we'll do the same split as we did before. We'll have a true, and we'll have a false take through, and these will both need ANDs as well. So only one of these can possibly open, right? Because the requirement of an AND and a NOT. So if we already have one, then we only need one of them, so we don't need an exclusive OR. If we get 2 or 1 of them, we should be okay. So I'm going to put an OR here, and that's again A2 and B2. So our A2 is coming from here, and our B2 from here, and we can carry that across and drop that like so. And if we don't have one of these, then we need both of the other two to hit that number 2. And so we'll take an AND gate here, and this will take B2 and hop that nicely, A2. And of course we OR these together, because only one of these can possibly come true anyway, so we definitely can't get away with an AND there. And hop these together into here. Now in theory this will add these numbers together. Now I can't try all of these numbers quickly enough on screen, but let's just test a couple of cases. So we'll do A is 0, B as 0, and then we'll see what C comes out as. Now obviously A1 and A2 will both be 0, 0, and B1 and B2 will also be 0, 0, and our C results. So let's just try getting, this needs a bit more work. So C1, the smallest digit, well that's A exclusive OR with B, and if A is 0 and B is 0, exclusive OR is 0, so we get a 0 for our last digit. Our second digit on 0, well our carry, so this is an OR on here. Let's start with our carry. Our carry was 0 because that's an AND of A1 and B1, which are both 0. I've done these the wrong way around. That should really be a 2 and a 1, so then I can see them the right way around for the number. So if A1 is 0 and B1 is 0, then our carry is 0, which means the only possibility here for this one is the false, which means we need an exclusive OR on B2 and A2, and an exclusive OR on B2 and A2, which are both 0 and 0, comes through false, so we end up with false. That's a 0. And for our third digit, we get the OR of these two, but again our carry was false, so we need to take the false path here in order to get anything through. This one cannot pass if that's true, if that's false, so this one's the only one that can. And so we're looking for an AND of B2 and A2, which is of course 0, so nothing works. Perfect. Now let's try adding 2 and 2. So that's 1 0, and that's 1 0 here. And so let's follow this one through on here. So we've still got the 0 here. Both of these are 0, and so we get the exclusive OR on zeros comes to 0. Our carry will of course still be 0, so we take the false path, and then we've got a 1 and a 1 in the A1, A2 and B2, and a 1 and a 1. Exclusive OR comes through to false, so that comes through and we get a 0. Good. And then we're going to OR again. We're taking the false path here, and we're going to add together that with the A2 and the B2, which are 1 and 1. And so the AND is 1. We get the 1 through, and we get our 1 here. So 2 plus 2 is 4. That's perfect. Let's try adding 3 and 3. So we get a 1 1 and a 1 1. And so we start here. We've got our exclusive OR here. So 1 and 1, exclusive OR is 0. We come back with a 0 again. Then for C2, we're going to need to take the carry. Now the carry has come from a 1 and a 1, so that is actually a 1. So that means we need to take the true path, which means XNOR on the other two. So A2 and B2 are the same, which means XNOR actually passes, right? Because exclusive OR means they have to be different. So if we not that, then that means they have to be the same. So A2 and B2 are the same, so we do get to put a 1 in here. Now we look at our C4 value. Again, we're taking an OR on this, so we need to look at the carry, which was a 1. And we shall pass through the true value, therefore, which it just needs OR on these two. And A2 or B2, well, either one of them is a 1. That's enough that we can put a 1 here. And so 3, add 3. If we add that together, 4 plus 2 plus 0, yeah, that's 6. And I should try it with one number that's different just for funsies. So let's add 1 to 2 and hope we get 3. 1 is 01, 2 is 10. The exclusive OR here on 0 and 1 comes through as true, so we get a 1 there. And the carry from that should be an AND on 1 and 0 is false. So for C2, we're going to take the false path, which just needs an exclusive OR on A2 and B2. Now A2 and B2 are not the same, so the exclusive OR passes. So we get a 1 here. And if we go to C4, again, we're looking at the carry, which came through false. So we take the false path, and we're looking for an AND of A2 and B2. A2 is 0, B2 is 1, so that's actually, that comes through false, and that passes through as false, and we get 0, 1, 1, which is the correct response. Now this is already starting to look a little bit complicated, and if we want to try and make a bigger adding device, it's going to be hard to remember all of these things at the same time if we stick a third digit and a fourth digit on. But pretty much everything after this carry can be broken up into returning two results, which would be the number and the carry after it. So all of this could be considered a single machine, but even that I'm just going to break up into two machines. This section here takes 3 inputs, and it says if there is a 1, if 1 is lit or 3 are lit, then we get a true result. So we can actually break that apart and call it our machine for 1 or 3. So if we break this out, we can do that. So we'll have our device and we'll call it 1 or 3. So 1 or 3. So that should be an OR like that. And we'll make our magic box like so. And this has 3 inputs, A, B, and C. Now, if any one of those is lit or any three of those are lit, we want an output to be true. So the first thing we're going to need is an OR on this, and we're going to treat it the same, so the A is the carry. So we'll make this an OR, like so, and then we'll build the carry and the AND. So the A is the carry, so we need an AND here, and we also need the AND here, and this one should respond to the false version of A. So we'll put the not here and carry this back. Now, in order to get to this section, we're going to need our exclusive OR, the exclusive NOR on this side. So we'll exclusive NOR like so. And we'll do that with B, and we'll do that with C like so. And we can carry this across to our AND here. And this one needs to be an exclusive OR, the positive variant. So we'll do that here. Again, exclusive it. We'll pass the C here, and we'll take B over this way. And we can pass this to the AND. And this should be exactly the same as this section here. So we've got the A carrying here, so we've got true, and the XNOR here coming there. We've got the false join here, and the XOR here. So that should work. We also need the 2 or 3 variant of this, which will look basically the same. So it will take an A, B, and a C, and it will output, but if 2 or 3 are true, so we'll put the OR gate here, and our A, again, will need its true state, and its false state, which therefore takes the NOT gate to make the false state work. For our B and C, well, based on this diagram here, we can see we can use the OR for the true state and the AND for the false state, because we only needed one if the first one was true, and we needed both if the first one was false. So we'll put our AND gate here and join C to B here, hop over, come here, and I might have made this a bit small here, but we'll put our OR, that's the wrong way around, that one should be the OR, because if we've got a true, that should be an OR. So we'll just do a really thick line so as it's clear that it's the OR we're after, not the AND, and that makes our diagram very pretty. So, and we'll pull the B across here, hop it over, and we'll do the AND gate here. I think there's a good reason we don't tend to get engineering people as artists. We just want it to work, right? So we've got the OR gate there. And so in theory, if A is true and B is true but C is false, then we should get a 2, right? Because that will be that ANDed with the OR of those two, which is true. That's good. But if A is false and B is false and C is false, or even C is true, then A is false. We get the, so this is the gate we're going to have to take, and that's the AND. So we wouldn't get the result of true. So that in theory works, and now we'll just make our sum gate, which basically combines these two into a single object. So we'll call this sum and have another box here. Now this box is going to have a C1 and a C2 coming out of this, so that's the first part and the carry of this standard input of 3 things, an A, a B, and a C. And basically we're just going to pass them into each. So the first box here will have a 1 or 3 box, and A, B, and C can go into the 1 or 3 box, and that output goes straight to C1. And we'll have a 2 or 3 box here, and the very gentle hops. A, we'll take B, and C can go this way, and then our output will be C2. And that is basically our add and carry method when we have 3 objects. It's kind of funny treating these boxes, they're almost like functions, aren't they? But you just can't process it at the small level mentally at the same time as processing it at the big level. And it also makes the diagrams a lot simpler to draw. I'll try and show you what I mean on the next page. So let's make our numbers big. Let's have A1, A2, A3, A4, A5, and we'll have a 2, B3, B4, and B5, and obviously for our output we need C1 to 6. And for the first part we're going to need we're going to just use an exclusive OR because we've only got the 2 inputs. So we'll do the exclusive OR at the top, and this will go all the way to C1 like so, and that just takes B1 and A1. Nice and straightforward. And even for our carry, we basically just need to use the AND function as well. So we'll put the AND here on B1, and we AND that, and that's our initial carry from the A1s and B1. For the next part though, we can actually be quite straightforward and just use our sum object, which has 2 outputs. The first will go into the C2 bit, and the second will be our carry onto the next bit. So A2 can come to here, be our first input, our second input, and B2 can be our third input, and that's a sum block. It counts how many lights are on, right? And that might be a bit of big box, but we'll put this here for sum on the carry of that with A3. So like so. And the carry of B3. And then we take the output of this and send it straight to C3, and the carry that comes out of this can go to A4 like so. Oop. Might have put that hop a bit prematurely. So we need another sum box here. Sum. And we'll draw that across, and B4 like so. And I'm pretty sure you can see the pattern that's coming out of this. This goes into C4 like this, and then we only need one more sum box, and we'll put that here, taking the carry, sum, and the outputs of this go to C5. And of course, if we wanted to make it longer, we could. We just keep extending, and the wires get more complicated, and it might be worth making another abstraction layer on top of this, just so our minds can follow. But in principle, hop here, hop here, hop here, and that's our second input, and our third input like so. And there you have it. With the definition of sum like so, we have written an adding device for adding together 5 bits just using logic gates. Hopefully you find that interesting. If you do, feel free to like and subscribe. I do quite like talking about all kinds of programming stuff and games. Either way, I'll see you sometime in the future.